So best of 5 finals with 2 new players.
Apparently
Not new to the overall scene, of course, but new to the finals, basically. I don't know if these two have ever faced in the finals. I'm going to go ahead and guess no. Both of them have made it to the finals, but then very rarely win it. I was checking out Spirit's amount of victories, and he's been in the finals. So I think this is now the 15th time, actually. Kiwi Bulldog, 3 for 18 months. SKillous, I didn't check, but I'm sure it's probably less. I shouldn't say I'm sure, but I think it's less. Maybe not by too much. But what's really interesting is that this is basically a new finals because it has been a year and 7 months, if I read things correctly, since it has neither had Clem nor MaxPax in the finals, the European Open Cup. It has been a very long time. One of them almost always makes it, and obviously they frequently make it together, so that there's tons of Clem vs. MaxPax finals out there. But Clem lost to SKillous 0-2, couldn't handle the Protoss press, and then Spirit beats, who did he beat? Spats, who is a surprising face in the semifinals, because that side of the bracket is usually dominated either by a MaxPax, or if not him, maybe then a Hero Marine or Showtime. But all of those players didn't sign up today. So that certainly explains like one of the reasons that we don't have the typical finals. But for Clem to be 0-2'd by SKillous, that's still an upset, even though his versus Protoss has been slipping as of late. And just a really good result for SKillous, who I think always has the ability to get a really good result in a tournament, but a lot of it is his mental. It still affects him. He talks about it. I think it's massively improved from where he was 4 years ago. But, you know, it still might not be enough for him to overcome the hurdles to actually make it to a prestigious semi or prestigious finals. But he can at times be, you know, one of the best Protosses, I think. He just can't show it consistently. So anyway, after watching SKillous dismantle Clem, even though Clem, again, slipping a little bit, Clem's still pretty freaking good. After watching SKillous dismantle Clem, I wonder what's going through Spirit's mind. Spirit is generally considered not to be as good as Clem, and pretty much across the board as well. Maybe they're a little closer when it comes to TVP, but I am not confident in saying that. You would basically just say that Clem is way better in TVT. He very, very regularly beats Spirit, and then he's way better in TVZ because he's one of the best, if not the best TVZer in the world. So it's a hard bar to reach, okay? But anyway, Spirit, might have the closest chance to being better than Clem in this matchup, and he has the knowledge, at least some of the knowledge, of what Clem worked against. So while SKillous, I don't think really gets any information from Spirit versus Spats, because A, he wasn't watching it, he was playing, and B, because Spats played way differently than most Protosses, Spirit actually probably has a good grasp on what SKillous's plans are here today and his current PvT meta for him, for what he is using and thinks is working for him. So that's a little bit in favor of Spirit, but still, it's not as simple as just, I know he's going to DT rush me, so I'm going to have a scan ready. It's not as simple. SKillous is still a very good player, and I think he is favored here, but we'll see what happens. A little early aggression. I gotta imagine Clem tried some of this, so I'm not saying this is any better, but this is what Spirit's been doing versus Protoss. Getting a little bit of that control in the early game, trying to catch them out of position, because so often that medevac will mean that it's going to go into the main or the natural, not right up the gut. Not working so far. SKillous more than prepared. Shield battery is basically what you need in any amount of units, of which he has 5. He's going up to 3 gateways. Should be appropriately scared. Yeah, should be scared of a tank push on this map. And while Spirit is still more well-known for the amount of macro, defensive, long games that he has played, he definitely can shift gears, especially on the smaller maps, and to start off a best of 5 by going for 2 base all in. Like, I could absolutely 100% see Spirit doing that. He's not, but that's something that SKillous probably would have to take into mind. So 3 gateways for primarily defense. No Warp Prism was created here, not literally spending all of his money on those gateways. Yeah, so that's mostly defensive. Liberator does get some distraction going. Seems like it did kill 2 probes. Stalker's trying to return the favor by slipping into the natural. I'm gonna find a supply depot, so not as impressive, but it looks like Spirit is hoping that he's not paying attention. Oh, wait, no, that doesn't work. Okay, I still think that's what Spirit was hoping for. Cyclone's killing a spotter pylon over there. Not too big of a deal. But, yeah, I think the Marines were popping out to try and catch the Stalkers trying to blink. Maybe they would have blinked over here, to be fair, but down here makes a lot more sense. Either way, the tank actually got a shot, so now we're down to 2 Stalkers. The scouts of the game right now. 9 in total, so he has more that he could bring to the front, but he is so wary of that medevac flying around. It's injured. Cyclones have really worn off as far as their effectiveness, and the game is going to continue on to a pretty normal PvT, really. Spirit's gone up to a little supply block. Stim, combat shields, bio, you know the drill. And Skillous from the 3 gates defensive setup has gone into Colossus, so a very, very bread and butter Colossus playstyle. It's what everyone's been doing lately. And it looks like Spirits is a little wary of continued aggression and or DTs. And this is turret in the front, so I guess why not? 3rd CC almost completed. Almost a turret in the main base. I'm sure that'll happen probably as he gets his 3rd on location. SKillous has yet to afford a Warp Prism, and the problem is that if you are used to facing MaxPax, then you would almost always expect a Warp Prism, even if it's only a 3-gate. MaxPax, I think, always gets the Warp Prism, even with a 3-gate. He even sometimes gets it with the 2-gate, I believe. So, it's something that you want to be wary of in general, but actually isn't necessarily what people do, what Protosses do when they go for a more defensive style of play. Like, a lot of the time they do what SKillous is doing, not getting a Warp Prism. Going right into those Colossus and getting the proper setup. So Spirit actually not under any more pressure, is even ready to push out. So got medevacs on the way, combat shields and +1. SKillous should be able to grab that 2nd Colossus, get on the front lines before the attack actually hits, but where are the shield batteries is my current question. Another Spider pylon will go down, almost supply blocking Skillous. He's only got 1 more pylon coming and 6 gateways finishing. He actually is going to need a lot more pylons. And okay, 2 pylons, not Tosa's pylon, but still, it's a little, okay. Tanks sieging up in an obnoxious position. They don't hit the Nexus. And the simulator going down is annoying, and the units actually unloading here, some of them at least, is also less than ideal. 3 Colossus, sorry, 2nd one was already out, so 3rd Colossus was ready for this defense. It's just that it looks like Spirit was very well aware he wasn't really going to be able to push just right up that 3rd base and kill anyone. He had to take a little bit of a clever approach to this. I don't know where the Raven went. There you are. Raven coming in here for more auto turret harassment. And a decent amount of probes have gone down at this time. Not too shabby. Ghost Academy on the way for the Terran. Interference Matrix was never upgraded, so this is really what the Raven can do. Otherwise, maybe an anti-armor missile later down the line, as it is still alive. Observer catching sight of any reinforcements and the path that they take as well is really nice for Skillous, who probably means for that to be in vision mode, but, either way. Gonna see the army here. Now would be a bad time to put in a surveillance mode. He's not going to do it. Okay, good. Yeah. Where is he? He might. He's getting ready for an attack. He's certainly getting ready to posture. With 3 tanks still alive and well, I'm actually not certain that Skillous can make any movement here. This seems pretty well locked up. And the Observer is going to be able to see that. And just frankly, with the army being paid attention to, you probably don't want to push in. You got to be very, very confident with your army type to actually do that. And with Skillous still being very Colossus heavy, it's 4 Colossus and an okay number of other ground units. It's going to get better very, very soon. Yeah, maybe don't run into this many Marauders, this many Medivacs, building Viking count, and 3 tanks appropriately defended. That's really the kicker. The tanks are the thing that actually can, push away the Colossus as the Viking count continues to grow. We're going to be at 4 very soon. I don't know if we ever had the 2nd starport built. We did not. So that might be an issue going forward. 6 Medivacs and non-stop Viking production is fine for now. Like, nothing's happened. It's just that if the Vikings get traded out, if the Medivacs get traded out, choosing between one or the other is going to be a tough choice, indeed. Well, I've been just muttering on here. Skillous has been doing a kick-ass job of getting pylons and Nexus and, oh my, gateways and everything around the map. Good lord. He is going up to 5 bases at this point. In the middle, already some SAC defense to help out as well. His army is posturing in the middle of the map away from the scan. So is that pylon that's a spotter. And he's got proxy gateways, 2 of them. 3 of them, actually. This is like kind of a proxy, I guess. This is just great vision. And there's really, in my opinion, there's no reason not to do this. Especially when you are facing someone who is more likely to be defensive. Either because it's a player choice, Spirit's known for being defensive, or because of their composition style. You know, you can basically tell when a Terran is not willing to engage out on the map. And that was kind of being told there, but actually Spirit decided to jump on the opportunity. So many Marauders here living through all the Colossus beams. Vikings just now really all by their lonesome taking down the Colossus. And once those Colossus are gone, well, then the Marauders are pretty freaking good. But there's not enough of them. Actually, the tank fire starting a friendly fire there as well. Tanks going down thanks to the charged out Warpins. And perhaps SKillous just found the moment here. Maybe not. I'm going to take that back, actually. The Warp Prism does go down. The Disruptors weren't on the front line as of yet. And while the Gateway number could have overwhelmed, I think. Yeah, it just wasn't all together at the right time. Yeah, at least he grabbed the Ghost there. But yeah, SKillous, you know, I like this positioning. And I think ultimately that fight was really not too bad for him. He's continuing to expand as well. Auto-turret harassment at least still happening, but that's a lot of Nexus to be taken care of. Disruptor is also keeping Spirit nervously paying attention to his army at every given time. Whoop, that was a mistake. Disruptor off to the far right. SKillous is on 2-1, as Spirit is only on 1-1. Disruptor was caught there, so that's always nice. Spirit supply is looking a bit better. Charge out run by, dealing an obnoxious amount of damage, I guess. Maybe not the worst thing in the world. The worst thing is actually the distraction. And that's exactly what SKillous is trying to go for. Spirit manages to avoid all the Disruptor shots, thankfully. Spirit actually, now with no Disruptor shots to go up against, is not going to be able to give chase. Just doesn't know what's behind everything. And, well, you think you're chasing in a good amount of time, suddenly that Disruptor shot does refresh, and you're in a lot of trouble. So he's going to take the cautionary path, stay at home, repair the planetary, get the planetary actually up and running, and hope to hold from there on out. But if this is the plan here, you know, he tries to strike out, he tries to actually get the army engagement in his favor. It doesn't really work out. Okay, now back to defense. If you are going to play purely defensive, we're going to see some Liberators probably pretty soon. Now, Spirit is still under some trouble. Disruptors don't have that appropriate response as of yet. Disrupt on the backside, going to clip a Marauder. So far, so good. Dodging and weaving away from the Disruptor shots. Yeah, Spirit, you know, this would be a much easier job. There we go, a little split there, try and mitigate the damage. It'd be a much easier job for the Terran to defend if Liberators are on the field. They're not impervious, but they do help. EMP is going to be shot down before the Ghosts actually get deleted. Oh no, miscontrol on the Disruptor. Hit multiple Protoss units. The rest of the Disruptor shot's not hitting anything. One more, that's it. Oh my god, and the misclick there from the Terran. Oh no. I think the charge light count was getting kind of insane anyway. The reinforcements always awkwardly disjointed. The EMP's not hitting the hotspot, the center of the Zealots, and no follow-up on it as well means that SKillous has just overwhelmed his opponent. And the Disruptor shots, only one of them was really all that good, but it's the fact that they're crowd controlling that really makes it effective. Makes them an excellent retreat option, but also makes them pretty good at exactly what we saw here. Continuing to be aggressive. Just staying on the front lines non-stop. Because the Disruptors, even if they don't get those beautiful shots, kill 20 Marauders, they still crowd control. The Terran's so busy splitting and running away and panicking about maybe I should have sniped it, maybe I should have run away, who knows, that then the Stalkers can start microing down the Medivacs and Marauders and Ghosts. The Zealots suddenly are getting swipes while the Terran army does nothing in retaliation. And that's how you can get a lot done with the non-Disruptor portion of the army. You still want the Disruptors to live, obviously, so losing over half of them is not usually ideal, but the game is already over. SKillous, it's a dominating victory at the end, really. It looked like it was no sweats in the last 90 seconds. Takes game number 1. Gosh, what is there's to say about that game? Spirit, it's not that he did anything necessarily wrong. Yeah, it's hard to say, I'm actually thinking, like, you could argue he shouldn't have run after the army to do that trade that happened, because they didn't end up being as victorious as he was hoping for. You know, it actually just kind of was a reset, and then because Proxy Gateways, Warp Prism, kind of a short map as well, the Protoss wasn't actually dislodged. So you traded army for the Protoss to still hold on to your side of the map. Not ideal. I think it was terrible, though. But I think what it really was the kicker was a 1-2 punch. It was the fact that he did that while grabbing his 4th base that was not yet a planetary. So he loses his army without dislodging the Protoss. The Protoss is going to reinforce in a centralized location better, thanks to Warp Gate. So it works. Terran has to run the army down. That caused a lot of deaths from reinforcements. That's SKillous didn't have. I think it was the double whammy of the timing to choose to run after that army. I think was actually the real kick in the nuts. Because then he was just so much on his back foot, trying to reinforce and being incapable trying to track the movement of the surplus of zealots, which is very difficult to do. I mean, you really got to get your ducks in a row. No, I've used that phrase once already, but you really gotta, when the Protoss is on that, like, almost hypermobility gateway disruptor style. It's actually quite fast. The disruptors aren't, but the disruptors can kind of be positioned correctly so that the rest of the army can still take advantage. And so if you're running all over the place and barely not getting the planetary up and having your units come from only one stream direction and the Protoss picks up on it, starts cutting off your reinforcements, it's an ugly game. And I think what Spirit really wanted to have happen there is that he wanted a calmer game in which he kind of got to that maxed out 2-2 army and then maybe took a really decisive battle. Didn't happen. And so now on Oceanborn, top left up 1, it is SKillous. And on the bottom right, we do have Spirits. It does seem to be the style of the month, of the last couple of months, what have you. The mass gateway style feels like it's really come back into play. It's not that it ever disappeared. It's just that it feels like it's gotten faster, which, when you talk about speed in StarCraft, you can be using it in a few different ways. You know, you can talk about the literal, like, movement of your mouse, zip and zopping over the screen. You can talk about the ability to multitask, to respond to things quickly. And then you can talk about kind of just, like, the ability to multitask, I guess, more in a macro sense. You know, there's a fast game where you're watching the battles happen and people are controlling it at 500 APM and you're like, damn, that's fast. But then that last game, I think, was a pretty good example of just like a fast macro game. When you blink and you miss it. Blink and suddenly the Protoss is on 5 bases with spotting pylons, observers, zealots, gateways, proxied all over the map. So that even if you do try and do something, you're spotted instantly. And so, again, you blink and suddenly the Protoss is overwhelming you. You're like, wait, no, you were like the slower guy, you had like Colossus, and you had to wait for that, and I was responding to that, and then suddenly, all of a sudden, you are on my ass 24/7 with no hiccup in your economy. In fact, you're out producing me because you're taking over the map because I'm stuck at home. Like, that's what I mean when I say fast. It feels like people have really gotten faster with the macro style alongside the safe Colossus 3-base opener into properly executed transition over into Gateway Disruptor. You know, that's not new, but people are pushing the limits on how good it can look. And I think that looks pretty good. Sometimes you'll watch a worse player try and do the exact same thing. They might even take the replay that SKillous releases, and then they try and do everything exactly at the same time, and they will simply run out of steam. Too many things will happen. They will forget the gateways. They will forget the pylons. They'll forget the spotters. They'll forget to attack when they should be attacking, and they'll only defend because they got too many things going on. And it looked like a very streamlined, easy game at the end there for SKillous, but it's absolutely not easy. And so Spirit's really got to think of some way to make that an easier game for him. That was an extremely difficult game for him. How do you make it easier? Not sure about that. Couldn't tell him. We got a 4-gate on the way? No. We have a 2 gates with a War Prism because it was a Robo first. This seems to be coming back into play here. So, 2 gateways, Warp Prism, a little bit of harassment. This is kind of what Spats seemed like he wanted to do. But then he turned it into... Well, he got an Immortal, and then he turned it into Charge Out Archon against Spirit. And it was pretty weird. Head Depth Lift, oh my god. Which I don't want to say SKillous won't do. I don't want to say that. Because if SKillous did it, I actually think that Spirit would be awfully surprised by it. We'll see. Twilight Council is coming down now. We'll see what that actually produces. Stalker's coming across. Blinkless may have not spotted that medevac. It seems like they did not. We got a little bit of a mirrored situation here. Warp Prism in the main. Medevac in the main. Little trade on the workers about to come through here. Stalkers actually get warped in with a Widowmine, though. That's a little dangerous. A little dangerous. Oh, no retarget there. Oh, missed opportunity from Spirit. Goes into the Gas Geyser. Meanwhile, the Stalkers are being blinked via the Warp Prism and doing a wonderful job. Probably should have been able to kill that Cyclone, so slightly missed opportunity there as well. But in the case of who takes more damage, it is a case that is already solved. SKillous took less damage. He is currently up 9 workers. Let's see if he can keep it that way. Medevac's still flying around. Widowmine going to get a second shot as well. And... Oh, there's retarget. All right, so there's no more lost mining time at the very least happening here. And the save on the Widowmine with a very, very healthy Medevac. He actually really got a lot of juice from that stone. Like, that was probably the best you could do in that situation. As Spirit, who still has the surprise Widowmine drop later on should the game go so far. Blink is on the way, by the way. 3rd Nexus as well, so definitely not what Spats was doing. We do have just the Warp Prism providing harassment, scouting, a little bit of map control. And it's not going to kill a supply depot. It's not too bad, but it has somewhat lost track of the army. Realizing the army isn't here, sees the opportunity to get into the dead zone of the tank and actually body blocking the SCVs as well. Nicely done. Just enough time right there. Just barely enough time with the Marines and Cyclones away to actually kill that tank. SKillous is super on point. Oh, maybe I spoke too soon. Super on point. He's Gucci. He's good. 2 probes go down because we got an auto turret harassment in the natural as well. So that's actually 5. Very quickly, a good target fire, I assume, from Spirit to get the 5 probe kills in total. Still saves the Widowmine and the Medevac. Yeah, getting everything you can from the drop. Observer's going to come in here and see that there is still no 3rd CC. That's actually coming down to the natural, though, so that's something the Observer wants to see. Is it either there's a 3rd CC in the natural or there's 2 extra barracks in the natural, and you really want to see which one that is. He's so close. It's very possible that SKillous already figures that it's not going to be a 2-base attack just with the amount of units that are available. Some more probe damage done, and now in total 11 probes have been killed, so we have actually 1 out on the worker kill count. It's over a longer period of time though, so not actually good, I would say. Well, I don't know. Actually, I'm going to take that back. No, because like the worker count's actually closer than a Protoss would usually want it. That's a 6 worker difference. Only after SKillous just killed 5 workers. Now it's up to 8. Okay, now we're kind of getting cranking here, I guess. This is a more appropriate difference of workers. But yeah, so 11 over a period of time is actually, now it's 12, I guess. That kind of did the trick to keep SKillous suppressed. That SKillous is now getting some of his own economic damage done and further delaying the 3rd CC. This is a feisty number of Stalkers on the front line, so they will be able to target fire the Marauders as they get chased as well. And now, as we get to 3-base versus 3-base, yeah, the 5 worker difference is not all that convincing for the Protoss player who is going into Mass Gateway. Basically, if you go Mass Gateway, you want that, 10+ worker difference even, like, especially depending on what style you're going for, I suppose, like totally gasless or a little gas or whatever, but if you're going to Colossus, it's a little different. We see a lot of Colossus games work out totally fine for the Protoss players, even though they're only up by 4 workers. I don't know. With Mass Gateway, it's a little different. Finally, that Widowmine drop is going to be killed. Medevac needs to take the long path home to survive. SKillous is grabbing a 4th base, but that's not even halfway done. He's invested a lot of money into an attack here that I'm not actually positive is that impressive. I feel like he tried to go for a bit of a power spike there, and it just didn't happen. Perhaps he was expecting Spirit to actually move out, in which case moving out, unsieged, on Burrowed Widowmine to get us around with the Zealots, it's beautiful. But when the Terran is just at home defending, I think the Gateway Army is going to find a very difficult time getting damage done. Trying to hit the main base as well is certainly one way to do it, though, and that is going to cause some problems. Third base is going to have the SCVs pulled away. I am seeing some stuttering, by the way. I hope it's not me, but it probably is. Immortal's going to get their Hardened Shields popped, but they have already added a lot of damage here. SCVs forced to be pulled in as Spirit realizes his Marauders aren't winning that fight as much as he was hoping they would. And with Zealots coming in here, he actually has to entirely evacuate. That tank no longer all that helpful. Gets his last shot before going down. 33 SCVs have fallen. SKillous, he's done a great job killing the opponent's workers, but he actually has not been killing much of the army. That is now the main problem with this game. If SKillous ever lets go of the aggression, let's say he loses the Warp Prism, then he might have a difficult time defending back at home. And so this Warp Prism continuing to harass is really, really important. So far, so good. Even dodges away from that Widow Mine. Stalker's still finding opportunities to get kills where they can. And at the very least, this is buying time. And the Zealots might be losing their cost effectiveness as time goes on here as Spirit sends more units to respond. But it's buying time for the Big Daddy to come out here, the Colossus to come out. And then as the Terran traverses the map, hopefully you can replace those Zealots you just gave up. Warp Prism not being paid attention to does go down, so that is exactly what Spirit needed to kind of have the green lights to go for the almost all-in counterattack. He still has 3 orbitals and 31 SCVs, but that ain't a pretty economy. And SKillous now comfortably on 4 bases, 65 workers, is clearly going to win this game, should this game last longer than 60 seconds. Spirit has got to go now, and he's got to make some very risky plays. He does have a very powerful army. +1 is done. Armor actually will not finish for the upcoming battle and probably won't be all that useful for this game. Medivacs need to definitely regain some juice here. And then the number 1 problem is going to be the Colossus. Second one is now out in the nick of time. We got a Guardian Shield ready as well. No shield battery at the third base. That is the biggest weakness for SKillous right now. But he has had that time to replace the Gateway Army. He had that time to build the Colossus, and I think he's actually fine. The shield battery would make it ultra fine, but even without it, I think he is fine. He's more than fine. He's going to win the game because Zealots are making sure that this is an all-in. No question about it. Liberators come in to try and help out, and they do cause some complications, but I don't know if it's going to be enough. Colossus getting lots of good shots here on the very bunched-up army. Widow Mine's even getting some friendly fire there, and SKillous will confidently take a 2-0 lead in this best of 5. Just looking very, very good on the PvT angle. This could be the last map. In the top right of Alcyone, it is SKillous. And in the bottom left, it is Spirit for Na'Vi. SKillous on Team Liquid. And have it in his name, and I don't have the clan names on. Pretty sure there's a way to do it, but I'm not going to start pressing buttons. I know the buttons that are important, okay? SKillous looking too good in the matchup for Spirit currently. I will say, I think Spirit, he's fine TVP. Obviously, very, very good player. Got to preface with that. But I think, Spirit's still one of the least likely players amongst the top 20, 30 in the world. I don't know. Whatever. Numbers. One of the least likely professional players to be able to adjust mid-series. I think that might still be a downside, a remnant of his past self that still holds him back a little bit. I don't want to say he never adjusts, because I think that he does. I think there's plenty of examples in all of the matchups in which he does a great job changing last second, figuring out what his opponent's on about and improving. But I think it happens less than some other players out there. Spirit generally has his play style, what he does, and he is willing to change it, but perhaps not as fast and not as crazy as someone like maybe an Estrella. Different race, but still probably a good example of someone who, even if Estrella has never practiced something before, he could be told, hey, I think this build is good against what that guy is doing, and he'll be like, all right, I'll try it. He is a guy who actually says to Fear Dragon, hey, that's actually not a bad idea, when Fear Dragon comes up with a terrible idea. I don't think Spirit's quite that same guy. You know, Spirit would have to probably be convinced to do something a little bit different. You know, for him, he might be looking at the last 2 games and seeing the mistakes that happen with what he is doing. Not necessarily thinking, okay, this is not working, throw everything into the bin, 2 racks. You know, that might be something that MVP would have done back in the day. Be like, well, I clearly can't win against this guy, so like, fuck it, let's just 2 racks all day. That's what they do. Spirit, not so much. So I'm thinking Spirit will play a very similar game, and so far that is the case here. ONX expand by the High Ground Command Center, factory starport 111, and then probably into the 3rd CC at a similar time. Yeah, he just doesn't necessarily change all that much. SKillous is changing every single game, although his ultimate destination still remains quite similar, which is Mass Gateway. But we had the Twilight Council, we had the Robo, and now we have a Stargate, so the trifecta of Protoss technology openings. Technically, there is a non-technical opening. There's the gateway openings, the 3 gates, the proxy gates, whatever, but that's beside the point. All 3 tech options have now been used, and this is a tech option that Spirit will not scout. So if he is assuming that is a Twilight Council, he would be wrong. He'd be incorrect. Question we have is it going to be an Oracle or Phoenix? Phoenix way more popular nowadays than the Oracle and Twilight Council option. Yeah, Phoenix it is. Medevac coming out, and this is not a great sign. Phoenix pretty good against Medevacs. As always, there's a chance that a Medevac can do even catastrophic damage to a Protoss player, despite the appearance of Phoenix, because the Phoenix can be in the wrong place at the wrong time. They are very useful, but they're also very fragile. I call them a high-skill unit. I think Stalkers with Blink are very high-skill too, but there's like the barrier to entry, the skill floor is a little lower for Stalkers than Phoenix IMO. So this is where I would usually say, well, the pro gamers almost never mess it up. So let's just disregard what I said. Well, we've actually seen a lot of Protoss pro gamers mess up their Phoenix. Either, you know, because they messed up or because they were forced to mess up. The Terran was playing very, very well. Medevac has to go home to repair the Cyclone. It's just useless without it. Like, what is this push really without a healthy Cyclone? So SKillous already getting the benefit of the early game without showing his Phoenix. That's pretty damn good. 3rd Nexus coming down for SKillous, almost halfway done. Shield battery in the natural as SKillous sees, literally seeing that the army is not giving up its attempt to reach the middle of the map. Unfortunately, doesn't retreat in due time, so saves 2 out of 3 of the units thanks to a recall. Shield battery's not here at the 3rd base, and I think maybe SKillous did underestimate a little bit. He got a glimpse of the incoming army from the Xel'Naga, but was not already building the shield batteries, and I think that's what he had to be doing. Phoenix will finally reveal themselves. And again, Spirit had no idea that it was a Phoenix game. His units are fine against the Phoenix, but it just changes how they're controlled a little bit. Shield batteries 2 and 3 might just finish up here. Number 2 is going to finish. Number 3 as well. That is very important as the Phoenix are giving up their lives to try and save the day. 2 of them go down for only one of the Cyclones, and that's less than ideal. If they had gotten a Liberator too, I would have called that fair. Slow Warpin's coming in too, actually. SKillous losing another Phoenix. At the end of the day, this is getting close to just being enough damage regardless. I actually don't know what happened there. I feel like I just had a seizure or something. Okay, so SKillous cleans that up, but did I just... Anyone who was really paying attention with me, did that look like a Stalker ball shot directly at a Cyclone being Graviton beamed and then did no damage? Am I crazy? It looked like all the Stalkers microed against something, and then nothing died. I might be crazy. That might be on me. But anyways, back to my point. That might be enough damage, even though that doesn't kill the Nexus, that doesn't kill Skillous. That might be enough damage to warrant that push, because so many Phoenix died. 3 of them died. It is hard to say. You know, technically, in the resources lost, the Terran's kind of winning out here because gas is more valuable. But you really got to start taking into consideration the rest of the game. You know, the direct number comparison only gets you so far. So for the rest of the game, who's already on track to be in a better position, I would say the Protoss, actually. Even though the Phoenix are far less useful, and Roddy's no doubt very disappointed at the Phoenix control, we're already on 4 Nexus. That gold base is almost done. SKillous kind of snuck that in there while defending. And that is incredible. That is very good. It is very, very easy to prioritize defending so that this Nexus is only just put down. Instead, putting it down while it's going on and obviously not being scouted is good news for the Protoss player. I don't know what that was. Probably the Liberator. If I had to guess, it was the Liberator. Gets shot down. Proxy Gateway coming up here for SKillous. Map being controlled by the Protoss once again as Spirit goes into his 3-base setup. So again, he did not change a whole lot here. He maybe did a little more of a committed push, sure, but otherwise not too different. And his combat shields, stim, and upgrades are only all just finishing or getting started. We did eventually get that second engineering bay going on the upgrades as well. I don't know. That's a lot of time for SKillous to be doing what he did. Getting double upgrades and getting a 4th base on the gold saturated. This could have been way different. Again, this Nexus could have only been finishing. And then all that time, the Spirit had to wait for stim, combat shields, and medevacs. You don't have that gold base mining. So you don't have enough minerals to make enough gateways, to make enough gateway units. Berserker shot the medevac. Okay, I'm just blind. Thank you so much, Heaven. I completely missed it. I don't know why I had temporary blindness for that, but thank you for paying attention when I can't. Anyways, so back to my point. Like, SKillous is down in supply, actually, so this doesn't look like at all what I'm talking about, like why he keeps on saying the Protoss is doing all right. But I actually think he is. Now, this is bolstered because SKillous is already up 2-0. So there is that. There is that bias. But I really feel like this is giving the Protoss the playground. You know, the Terran isn't necessarily wrong to just basically wait and stack up a strong 1-1 army with Ghosts, with Vikings, whatever else they're going to be waiting for. But it does allow a lot of time for the Protoss to kind of zerg it up. You know, to kind of do the whole major economy push, then major army push, then major tech push. And SKillous has been showing that he is pretty adept with his style, so it's reading the situation, but I feel like the Protoss has read it very well. Is being rewarded as I am speaking from the 4th base being slapped down, 5th also completing as I'm speaking, double upgrades again. Everything fit in before Spirit even had stim and combat shields. Now, of course, he does, and we're about to have an actual true battle, but it's one in which SKillous is, I think, more prepared for to deal with. He does not have splash hits. Keep that in mind. Holy shit, there's a lot of zealots coming from the east side. Widow mines just splash every which way. That was not exactly what SKillous was hoping for. I did not see the zealots on the right side. Spirits almost got surrounded by them, but not quite. 2-2, not quite done for the Protoss either. That was actually a pretty bad anti-timing. Oh, that was bad timing. That was very unfortunate there. And the Zealots coming in from a different angle that you're not expecting is a wonderful idea 9 times out of 10, except that this came through a tiny-ass choke. So that wasn't as effective as maybe it could have been. But yeah, trying to get this around, failing this around, not having the 2-2 upgrades for the Zealots, and then the Widow Mines actually getting, I think, pretty good shots. They were all over the place, but it seemed like the Protoss was way too dispersed. Means that SKillous could be in some trouble. The good news is SKillous had this humongous bank. He had all these bases. He had all these gateways. 14 gateways, guys. He also now has double Robo and is continuing to just pump out Zealots, so at the very least buy time for the Robo units. Tale as old as time for PvT. Zealots also getting some run-by action done to buy further time, to buy some reinforcement kills. We still have SKillous with the upgrade lead, since 2-2 did actually finish at some point. 3-3 will start up very soon. Proxy Gateway still up in the top left at the very least, providing those Zealot run-bys. This is probably Spirit's best chance so far in the series to actually win a game, but then to actually get across Alcyone and kill all the bases and get on top of all that production is very difficult to do. Disruptor not going to get that shot. Good focus fire there from Spirit, who is actually going to be able to find this Nexus. It's already so mined out, though. It's, you know, it's a situation in which SKillous doesn't want to give it up, but if he has to, he has to. That's livable. Zealots killing SCVs as well makes it even more livable. Once again, Widow Mines might pop off, this time on the Stalkers. Not too shabby. Actually, many of the Stalkers live, and they kill the Liberators. Zealots giving up their lives just to buy time for the Stalkers. I don't think they actually killed too much, but they have forced a lot of stims. So those medevacs almost dry on energy, and of course, more Disruptors coming through. So if SKillous did make the mistake of not realizing his Zealots were all disappeared, it happens pretty quickly. Disruptors will cover his ass. Full Nexus actually being replaced. I would not mind SKillous actually grabbing this other base, though, if he continues to be pressured. 23 SCVs actually went down to the Zealot run buys, so that got a little bit worse than I had last caught, and no 4th CC down yet for Spirit, as SKillous has been comfortably on 4, even after the gold base died. Supplies still remain quite even, and now the upgrades are also even, but +3 armor is over halfway done for the Protoss. Grabbing some Vikings, some Medivacs. Obviously, if you grab all the Vikings, there is the choice to go back into Colossus, which is exactly what SKillous is doing. Spirit then has to worry about whether he builds Vikings or Medivacs. He has a good number of Medivacs, but their energy is depleted. So he's actually having some struggles here. I don't know where 9 Medivacs are, but they're not here. There's some all over the place, I suppose. Proxy Gateway does get taken down. Spirit was tired of just letting that continue to run by him, but then not paying attention to the army because he was, I think, about to be attacked, or he thought he was about to be attacked. Understandable, but that means the Zealots now get on top of this non-planetary. That's a big distraction as SKillous tries to run up the ramp here. This might have been a mistake, however, as he has no exit path for most of his army. The Stalkers could blink, but the other units cannot, and that was a severe overcommittal. Ouch. Ouch, ouch, ouch. And SKillous is not rolling in gold coins. His gold base only recently got resaturated. I'd feel a lot better about his remax potential if he had gotten a double expand at some point, if this base was mining as well. But he did not. This is now very sketchy. Again, Spirit's best chance to bring back this series right here, right now. Chasing down the remnants of the Stalkers that tried to escape and ultimately did not. Stalkers blink forward, try and take down the Ghosts. Vikings, not in high enough numbers, take down the Colossus very fast at all. I don't know if there's another Colossus on the way, but one might not cut it. There's plenty of Marauders, and they are healed up. I mean, we're making up for the lack of energy with just the freaking amount of Medivacs is what we're doing. Disruptor's not getting any chances for shots either, and the Shield Body Overcharge is actually currently what is saving the Protoss' life. That and the choke making it very awkward to go after the Colossus. I would have loved a couple more Colossus, but then getting them onto the proper location would have been difficult. They would have been caught reinforcing. Zealots get depleted pretty freaking quickly despite having 3-3, just a 2-2. Marauders are getting injured. Colossus barely lives. Disruptor trying to get any shots possible that they can. Don't forget that Spirit Supply is in a Medivac count. That might not help as the game goes on, but right now, every unit has a Medivac, and they can pick up away from the Disruptors, which have now used their shots. Into the main base we go. 3 pylons powering most of the gateways. Zealots trying to deal some more damage back on the side of Spirit. He is losing reinforcements. He's losing economy. We got ourselves a very, very close game. SKillous, though, is the one that has this economy up and running. 68 probes, basically untouched. Now, forced to disengage, forced to flee away from the battle. Disruptors still not getting shots, man. If one of these Disruptors gets a shot, that's it. That's game over. But they are narrowly avoiding it thanks to the pickups. But more Stalkers have finally been warped in. Medivacs, even if they aren't full of units, are still being shot down. And ultimately, that will affect the outcome of battles. Colossus will once again be saved by the shield battery and the overcharge as well. Spirit does have 4 bases back mining. He's no longer being distracted, so his supply is remaining stable. The last few units here will not win the game, that's for certain, but they tried their best to do as much damage as possible. And perhaps now it is time to skedaddle. SKillous getting upset, just being on the defensive, decides, you know what? Fuck it. I'm just going to go for a counterattack. I don't think you have a lot of units, and that's not necessarily untrue. Supply depot killed by Spirit's own units as things just get way too chaotic. Most of the units are dead, but they finally grabbed that Colossus. That thing's been alive way too long. Now we're down to, I literally think, 2 units. There are 2 units and a bajillion Medivacs. 3rd CC is under pressure. Spirit's reinforcements do collect themselves, try and defend this kind of run-by attack thing that SKillous was throwing out here, but now SKillous could actually intercept the Medivacs. I think Spirit realized that, takes a left turn, sharp left turn. Is boost ready to go? It is. Got a boost again. 1 Medivac shot down, but the second one will live, and now we are still at 8 Medivacs alive, and not exactly well, but they are supporting this army. SKillous with a slight supply lead. Oh, Disruptor does get a pretty good shot. Could have been juicier, actually. Gonna overshot right there. And now being used just to keep the bio off the Stalkers back. 3-3 never started there for Spirit, actually. +3 only, under halfway done. Better than nothing. 6 more Ghosts coming out as well. Liberator not able to stop the Zealot harassment as Spirit loses access to his 3rd base. That 4th base planetary really doing a lot here. That is his most stable economy. And if that goes down, that might be it for Spirit, who really is starting to just lose out in general. SKillous having those 5 bases so reliably up and running alongside the superior upgrades for the last 4 minutes, I think has really shined through here. Disruptors, again, also getting a couple of good shots, but then providing that crowd control has been excellent. SCVs are being pushed away from the mining thanks to some stalkers. This new command center not going to actually get to mining. Spirit does not have the resources, both in terms of units, minerals, or attention and multitasking to actually defend the entire line of expansions here. The 3rd, 4th, and 5th all under fire. Very difficult for him to take care of. SKillous is going to have basically an easier job throwing units around the map than the Terran is at this stage. The Planetary does a lot to protect it, but without high-sec auto-tracking, yeah, the stalkers can get behind the mineral lines and be a bit of a dick. This is not exactly what SKillous was hoping for, but maybe it actually is. Just kidding. That was almost a bait, and I got baited as well. SKillous takes advantage of the units that were trying to just go deal with a handful of stalkers. Suddenly, the rest of the Protoss army shows up, and Spirit was not prepared for that. So much of his army not being healed up while taking the battle, and the rest of the army coming in way too late. It might still be able to grab a couple disruptors, though, and that would not be too bad. 2 disruptors do go down. Chase might still be on. Very difficult decision, especially as SKillous once again sends Zealots into the natural, into the 3rd base, no longer mining whatsoever. Spirit basically on his last army. And he does have that +3 attack done, but is still being out-upgraded. Colossus coming back into the fray as well, as Spirit certainly cannot afford to produce more Vikings. And now he's losing Medivacs too. Another 2 go down. He's down to 6. He's stimming and running and going every which direction. They are being depleted very quickly. And the threat of the one-shot disruptors always here. Medivacs can't heal you from death. The disruptor counts back up to 6. Colossus are on the way. Some supporting units like sentries finally being made as well. We're getting into a more stable, predictable outcome for these battles, and that outcome is SKillous with the W. I think that's where we're headed. A little overeager perhaps on this battle. Spirit takes a decent one. If this was a smaller map, or if the bases really pushed them towards each other more, like if the 5th of the Protoss was right here, this actually is probably a very, very close game. Like, blink and suddenly the Terran is winning. But because it is so large and there's so many unimportant places to be taking battles, SKillous has always had the opportunity to reinforce, to run by, to buy time. I really do blame the map for this loss for Spirit. I think if it was a shorter map, some of these overeager battles from SKillous would have cost him bases and production and technology. As it is, he's been able to hold on. Maybe finally one of the best battles for Spirit is he gets a great concave, took out all the disruptors, only 1 Colossus here, 2nd Colossus coming up now, shield body overcharge, not going to save the Colossus this time, but 1 more Colossus coming in to save the day. The units are weak, they're running away, the Medivacs are out of juice, no Vikings to take down the Colossus either, and while the supplies remain very, very similar, I'm looking around and I'm wondering where the hell is Spirit's supply? All the Medivacs will go down, all the Marauders will go down, and SKillous has expanded to the 5th base, has expanded to a 6th base. I don't know how the supplies are so similar. This does not look like that should be the case. I guess Marauders were maybe stuck at home. Maybe he misrallied at some point. Because now the army looks okay. Another Medivac gets shot down, though. Now we're down to 3. 2 fresh and 2 more on the way, but again, no Viking production. As SKillous now is up to 2 Colossus himself. And that's going to be some very consistent DPS. Now, Colossus alone will not kill Marauders underneath the healing power of Medivacs. They last a very long time. But when you add in the 3-3 charge lots and stalkers, focus firing as well, or just frankly getting on top of the Medivacs as they go for a drop, well then, yes, you will have dead Marauders. No doubt about that. So unlucky. Spirits was going to go for a couple of drops, a couple of run-bys. Actually was hoping to maybe trade out a 2-for-1 type of deal, right? Give up this base, but then take down this Nexus and these 2 Nexus. That would have been fine. But I'm not sure that's exactly what's happening. Spirit down just 1 base mining, frankly. Orbital has to move on over for the Mules. Nexus on the gold is going to go down, but that gold base was already mined out. The 4th had a lot more mining to do, and that also fell. I mean, what actually is this game? SKillous up 30 supply, 20 in the workers, and an army. Planetary might be a little too tough to break, but you don't really have to break it. It is going to mine itself out very, very soon. I think we're on full-on base trade. It is the only option for the Terran, and yet again, getting one of his Medivacs full of units shot down. Medivac energy going to be absolutely critical, as we will not have reinforcing units here. Every stim is going to be a potential problem. Here comes the recall. The recall with the Colossus on the front, however, makes it very vulnerable. It does get shot down. Guardian Shield not able to save that one. But is there enough bio? Is there enough healing? The Medivacs are almost out of juice. The Stalkers, though, blocking each other from getting in on the fight here. Zealots also not getting in, but I think it is just too far gone. SKillous, the ability to micro his units is stronger than the Terran with such limited Medivac energy. And this is going to be it. Once these two Medivacs are dead, SKillous will have the bases mining. And Spirit, what does he have? He has a base mining thanks to mules, thanks to the ability for an orbital soul lift. Thank God you're Terran. SKillous going to go for the gut punch, hoping to actually finally end this game with the remnants of his Gateway army. No robo units left. Only Gateway versus Bio. Bio could win. But Bio has got to get together. It's got to actually consolidate, and that is going to be very tough. So many units just strewn around here. Spirit going to come in with the army that was building back at home to try and take on basically all of the Protoss army. Not 100% certain that's going to be a win for him. Guardian Shield, Warp Prism Micro, Zealots actually connecting and getting us around. All big elements of the upcoming battle. SKillous should win, but you can take a bad fight with Gateway versus Bio. Absolutely. It actually is too easy to take a bad fight, I would say. SKillous has already taken a couple of bad fights in the entirety of this 23.5-minute game. There have been fights where he was too far forward, and only because he had such a great position on the macro side of things was he able to recover. So, you know, I think SKillous is also well aware that he could mess up the engagement, so he's not so far going to try and play a defensive game. He has to give up the base that actually had a lot of mining left over. This base is his last mining base. We are about to be mano a mano on the no mining. Spirit had his base covered by Zealots. Tries to move over to the gold base. That should be temporary. SKillous now down to just his original 2 bases with a third, fourth, I don't know what you would call this, building, but not done yet. 7 probes versus 9 SCVs. This game is actually starting to inch closer to a Terran advantage, I feel like. We are in that very kind of ideal base trade, don't base trade a Terran scenario, which is actually way old-fashioned. I really think that phrase is not applied to 80% of StarCraft 2 games anymore, but this might be one of those cases where the Terran Mule, the Terran Lift, and the Terran Bio underneath Medivacs, making them more like a Tier 3 unit, might actually win them the game. Another Nexus goes down. That was SKillous' last Nexus that he could build. He only has 200 minerals. It's not enough, and long distance mining not going to happen very quickly with 1 probe. Disruptor is being spotted by a Widow Mine. That Widow Mine even injuring one is good stuff. Observer actually tracking the army is also really good. I imagine Spirit will eventually realize it and EMP the Observer, but not yet. Vision, absolutely important, of course, as well. Like, we are down to a... like almost like a MOBA. It's not about the macro anymore, you guys. It's all about the micro. Army is back at home, and actually, I don't think Spirit was expecting that. Not at all. It kind of stims to retreats. That's... oh, no! It's the Disruptors! Oh, everyone goes down, though. But now it's a surround with the remnants of the Protoss army. The Terran army just not strong enough. No healing left over, and that is going to be it. SKillous. 38 supply to 16. Takes the 3-0. And will win this week's Open Cup. Hot damn. I did not think it was going to get that close. But fortunately, SKillous was able to come together in a way the Spirit could not. Yeah. Well fought. Well fought by both players.